This is a career management television production.
Thank you for coming in. Really appreciate having you here.
Yes.
I'm wondering if you could begin with just walking me through your resume.
Okay. Well, first, graduated in 2001, and when I graduated, I was initially going to go into the consulting industry. However, there was a downturn in the economy at that time, so a lot of firms were rescinding offers, and I just so happened to be unfortunate with a bunch of my other college classmates where our offers were rescinded at various consulting firms across the nation. However, I was fortunate enough to land in a private equity firm, and the private equity firm I landed with initially was Farrell's Capital Group post-graduation. When I was working at Farrell's Capital Group, I was kind of went on the, the entry level for an analyst. And while I was there, I did a lot of both financial analysis as well as putting together pitch materials or deck materials for the company itself so they could actually go out to market to fundraise for future funds that they were trying to raise at the firm. That gave me a lot of experience in how to both understand the particulars within private equity, but also how to understand the analytics that go behind a decision making for an investment process. However, their focal point was primarily the Texas/Southern markets, and I wanted to kind of expand my reach into more areas since I'm from Texas originally. So I had the opportunity with one of the partners departing the firm to work for his new firm he was starting, which had a more national and Caribbean focus. So I left Farrell's Capital Group to work for Osan VI LLC. And because I had worked on the ground floor of Farrell's Capital for several years, he wanted me to help him both start the fund and also help in putting a lot of the materials that were used for vetting a new investment. So not only was I involved in the analytical side of things, but I was also involved in kind of developing the fund from the ground up. So I worked at that firm for several years, for probably about 5 or 6 years, and worked very closely with the private equity manager who had started the fund. However, after about being in that role or being in the private equity industry for about 9 or 10 years, I was thinking I love finance, but I like most about finance and most about private equity is breaking down a company and understanding the fundamentals of what makes that company successful and what makes that company kind of go to market and take over the market. So that's why I wanted to kind of add a little bit more to my toolkit, because when I majored at Stanford, I majored in biology, so I did not have a business background. And by going back to business school, and specifically UT, I wanted to kind of fill in some of those gaps that I felt were in my toolkit, but in addition, understand more about the basics and fundamentals of what makes a business more successful. So as a result, I decided to go to the Macomb School of Business, and my focal point was going to be consulting and general management, so I could kind of fill in some of those areas where I thought I was lacking, and then ultimately look for a permanent job within a consulting firm, or if that didn't work out, maybe a general management rotational track.
Just walking me through your resume.
Sure, absolutely. So right after undergrad, I went to Miami University in Ohio outside of Cincinnati. I majored in accounting there, and so after that I went back to Minneapolis, where I'm from, and I started as an associate at KPMG, so doing external audit for a lot of large companies up there. I was doing a lot of healthcare payer and provider financial audits as well. So this gave me a lot of opportunity sort of right off the bat. I was really able to jump into all these audits, get into busy season, and just really help out the team and really make an impact. You know, you get a lot of responsibility really, really fast within public accounting, which was really great for me. So I stayed at KPMG for 3 years, and I was promoted to senior associate at that time. So I was leading teams of 3 to 5 people, and again, getting a lot of great experience moving within both the healthcare sector as well as financial services and some nonprofit work as well. Again, I really enjoyed the work, but I was feeling a little bit pigeonholed within what I was doing from just an accounting perspective. I wanted to get a little bit more industry experience before potentially going back to school at that point. So instead, I took the move to Target, where I was within their internal audit function, doing a lot of work with their pharmacies and clinics, and really understanding sort of what the Target brand is about and where sort of other opportunities within the industry could be. I also took my last role most recently to coming back to school was as a financial analyst within their finance negotiations practice. So I was helping the buyers determine which was the best product to put on their shelves from a financial perspective. So while the ultimate decision was up to the buyers of exactly what was going to be on our shelves, we were really helping them negotiate from a financial perspective to get the best margins for the buyers.
Yeah, absolutely. I graduated from USC in LA in 2007, where I studied psychology. I had a really great experience there, and when I graduated, I had a tremendous opportunity to participate in Teach for America. And that brought me all the way to Brooklyn, where I taught in a very traditional public school in Brooklyn for 2 years. I taught 5th grade elementary school, so 25 students, all in my room all day, teaching everything. And that was a really wonderful experience in that I didn't study education, but I really fell in love with the mission of Teach for America, which is closing the achievement gap. I loved working with young people and became really inspired around what we can do with public education. But after my 2 years, I began to think, well, this might be for me. I think I can do it long term, but if I'm going to stay in the classroom as a teacher, I need to be in a place that I'm going to be given development support and resources, as I wasn't getting that right where I was previously teaching. So I decided to take a position teaching 4th grade in a charter school. And this is just down the street, same neighborhood, same students, exact same mission, but the difference was night and day in terms of student results. And that was largely because of the work that was done that was very strategic by this specific school. And that was a great experience. I learned far more about how to teach in that single year than I did in 2 years in the previous school that I taught in. But at the end of that year, I was very much burned out, but I was very much also still in love with this mission. I thought, how can I continue to make an impact on education, but perhaps outside the classroom? So I decided to take a position on the recruitment team for Uncommon Schools, which is the parent organization of the charter school in which I taught. And that was really great for a number of reasons. One, in that I was still serving the same mission that I fell in love with. And two, during that time, I began to think about maybe I'd like to start my own nonprofit. And being a recruiter gave me a lot of great insight to see the organization with an umbrella view. And then I got to pick the brain of the director of finance and operations and see what they need, what they want, what works and what doesn't, and then find people to put in those places. So it gave me a great kind of overview of what nonprofits look like from the top. During that time, I was fortunate that my direct supervisor had her MBA, and she very much planted the seed about perhaps returning to business school and thinking about entrepreneurship. At the end of that year on that team, I learned a lot, but I decided I don't want to be a recruiter for the rest of my life. And at that point, I'd been in New York for now 4 years, and I was ready for something big, and I needed to change. And I wasn't yet ready to return to school. I hadn't prepared for GMAT nor applications. I wasn't entirely sure what I would want to do professionally next, so I actually decided to sell most of my belongings. And I took the next 10 months, and I traveled around the world with nothing but a backpack. And that's absolutely the best decision I've ever made, and we can certainly chat in length about that. But upon returning about a year later, I went back home to Chicago, where I'm from, took a part-time job doing recruitment for charter schools there while preparing my applications for business school, which has led me to McCombs.
This has been a CMTV production. All rights reserved.